The reason why you cannot stop binge eating despite feeling so uncomfortable is because you have now found comfort in the discomfort of binge eating. Binge eating operates on a cycle system, right? It relies on you upholding a pattern of behavior. And that pattern of behavior, that regularity and routine, is what brings you comfort, right? Even though the binge eating is uncomfortable, you have now found comfort in the discomfort because you've repeated the pattern so many times, and now you're stuck in a cycle that you cannot get out of. That's literally what happened to me, right? I was so depressed. I genuinely have always actually turned to food, even since I was a kid, right? When I was growing up, whenever, there would be something like a fight in the family, or I would be, fighting with my mom, right? The solution to apologize or make amends would always be food, right? For fighting, my mom would always say, we would talk about it and, kind of address it, kind of not. But then in order to make up for it, everybody would just go get food. And we wouldn't actually address the problem, we would just get food. And so that kind of pattern of behavior became my sense of comfort. And without knowing it, I literally developed eating and basically binge eating as a form of coping mechanism. So anytime that something emotional would happen in my life, anytime that I was feeling depressed about anything, if I went through a breakup, if I lost a friend, if I did bad on a test, if I auditioned for a show choir and didn't get in, I would just eat. I would eat my feelings away and I wouldn't actually address it. And so obviously that carried into my adult life. And with all of the things that were happening in my first year of college, me getting essayed, me not really having that many friends, me kind of feeling alone, me actually struggling just with life in general, struggling mentally in general, food was the only thing that I knew that was going to 100% solve my problem in the moment, right? Solve my problem in the moment. So I would just turn to food because I knew that dopamine from the food would combat whatever negative emotion that I was feeling, right? And, when basically things got really hard for me and I fell into the deepest depression I've ever fell into, I had to combat that extreme feeling of negativity with an extreme feeling of positivity. And that's where the binge eating kind of really came to its peak. And, I would be uncomfortable after I binge ate, right? Like in the moment, it feels good. In the moment, you're getting that dopamine from the fast food and from one, buying something, but then two, eating something comforting, right? Like fast food, the combination of like hyper palatable food that's terrible for you, right? That makes you feel the most comforted. And so in the moment, I thought that I was feeling better. But then immediately after, you realize exactly what you just did to your health, and you feel guilty, you feel shame, you feel discomfort. But for some reason, even though I felt so guilty, so shameful, so embarrassed afterward, I would keep doing it. And I did it for years, every single day for years, multiple times a day. And I would think to myself, why can I not stop binge eating? Because I hate doing it. I hate doing it. Why can I not stop? And I felt like there was something inherently wrong with me because it's why can I not just decide to stop? Why can I not just make a decision right here, right now, and say, I'm never going to binge eat again, right? If I ever did that, which I tried to do that on many occasions, I would say multiple times a week, I tried to be okay, this is the time I'm going to lock in. I'm not going to binge eat ever again, starting right now. And guess what would happen? A couple hours later that day, later that night, I'm in the drive-thru. Okay? I'm binge eating again, watching Netflix in my room with my food in the dark, and we're back to square one, having to commit all over again. Okay, I'm never binge eating again. And the cycle just kept going for years and years and years. I kept gaining weight. I kept hating my body even more, hating my habits even more, hating my mindset even more, hating everything about myself, because it was like every single day I was failing myself. And that feeling of failure basically just built up over time to where not only was I depressed, but now I just hated myself and I hated my situation, and I knew that I was to blame for a lot of this. And the reason why I couldn't stop binge eating, and the reason why maybe you cannot stop binge eating, is because even though it does feel uncomfortable when, you finish your food and you're basically just sitting there, you have no more food to distract you, you have nothing else to really distract you, and it's just you with your thoughts and you actually having to come to the realization of what just happened. That discomfort, like, even though you feel that discomfort afterward, the cycle overall, the cycle itself, that routine, that expectedness that you're going to binge and you're going to feel good initially and then feel bad after, that pattern and cycle is what was comforting to me. And I didn't realize that. And so I kept beating myself up. Like, oh my God, you hate doing this thing. Why do you do it every day? Why do you do it multiple times every day if you hate it so much? And it's because I found comfort in my discomfort. And by finding that comfort in that pattern of destructive behavior, it allowed me mentally to block out the actual effects, the full effect of what was really going on. And in order to get over that, right, in order to actually break the cycle, I had to create a pattern interrupt for my binge eating. And that was really hard because when you're stuck in a habit for so long, say you wake up at 6 a.m. every single day, and now you got a new job and you have to now wake up at 4 a.m. every single day. Well, if you've been waking up for your job at 6 a.m. for the past 5 years, it's going to be really hard in the beginning to start waking up at 4, right? But then the thing is, if you keep doing it over and over and over again, it's going to be easier to wake up at 4, and then it's going to feel normal, right? It's going to feel a lot more normal. It's going to feel the same as the 6 a.m., right? It's the same thing with binge eating. You have to create a pattern interrupt. And in the beginning, that pattern interrupt, it feels like you're fighting with yourself, because you are, right? You're fighting the future version of yourself who does not binge eat is fighting the current version of yourself that wants to keep you stuck in the binge eating cycle. And a pattern interrupt, that can be a multitude of things, right? For me personally, I would always binge eat the most commonly at night because I knew nobody was awake at that time. I didn't have to fear anyone judging me or finding me binge eating, right? So that was the time where I personally would binge eat the most. And so I realized, okay, if my problem is at night, I have to interrupt something at night. I have to do something else at the time that I would normally binge in order to not give myself the opportunity to do so, right? And what I did was, first of all, I would just get on a sleep schedule, right? So I would typically binge between the hours of like 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. And I just decided I'm going to go to bed at 10:30 p.m. I'm going to take some melatonin and I'm going to go to bed. And so I wouldn't even be awake at the time that I was normally binging. And obviously the pattern interrupt isn't going to completely solve your problems because the root cause is mental. The root cause is that you actually have to address your feelings. But in order to mitigate the effects immediately, I developed a sleep schedule and I stuck to it, right? And then by doing that, creating that pattern interrupt, I would then try and address my feelings throughout the day, right? When I woke up, I would try to be more conscious. I would try to focus on, why am I feeling this way? What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? If I ever got the urge to binge, I would think, what am I currently feeling right now? What has just happened or what has happened recently that is causing me to feel such a large emotion? Because whenever I would get the urge to binge, I would then think, what is the emotion associated with this? And by doing that, I could actually identify like what was wrong, what was the problem, what actually needed to be addressed other than just eating my feelings away. And so by being more conscious of my emotions throughout the day and then developing a sleep schedule and creating that pattern interrupt at night to prevent myself from binging, that's what allowed me to then create a new pattern, a new daily cycle, right? That did not include binge eating. And I'm not saying I never relapsed, okay? That would be a lie. I did many times. But the thing is, if you keep going with it and you keep trying and you don't give up, you will eventually get past it. You will eventually build enough consistency, you'll eventually build enough self-awareness and, enough of a new routine that you will develop the mindset to become a new person who does not eat their feelings, who actually addresses their emotions. But the big key factor is not giving up even when you relapse. Even when you relapse to the point where you think there's no coming back from this, I promise there is. I promise there is. I would relapse and eat at like 4 fast food places in one night. And I thought, wow. I would wake up the next day, face so swollen from all the sodium, could barely move, felt so disgusting the next day. And I was like, there's literally no coming back from this. But I was like, you know what? I need to try anyway. I need to try anyway because if I give up now, it's just going to get worse. The results of this relapse are going to then be magnified by me giving up and then eating my feelings away because I felt like a failure. So the main point is, 1, develop the pattern interrupt. Recognize what your behavior has been like when you typically binge and try and create a replacement, whether that's going to bed, whether that's doing a different activity, like going on a walk at that time, hanging out with a friend at that time, whatever it may be, do something else. Do something else where you don't have easy access to your binge foods, right? Easy access to your binge environment. Like I used to binge in my room, or binge in my car too. So it's like, if I'm in my room at that time, I have to be asleep. If I'm in my car at that time, I have to be purposefully going somewhere. I can't just be driving around, right? So create that pattern interrupt based off of, actually evaluating what is the pattern actually like? What is the cycle actually like on the daily? And then once you create the pattern interrupt and you decide what you're going to do, then use all those other times in the day to try and be more emotionally aware. Try and be more in tune with like what's really going on, right? If someone cuts you off in traffic and you get super angry, right? And you're like, oh, I just need to eat to feel better. Whatever the case is, right? It doesn't have to be that. But whatever the case is, try and just like think before you actually do something. Try and think, wow, like I'm getting an insane urge to binge right now. There must be some emotion associated with this. And then try and think, what just happened? What just triggered me to feel such a huge emotion, which then is being hidden in the urge to binge? Because once you really become more emotionally aware of what's going on in the day-to-day, that's going to help prevent you from binge eating, because you know that your urge to binge is not just coming from nowhere. There's a reason behind it, and the reason behind it is not that you're hungry or that you need to eat. It's that there's an emotion that you need to address that your body is trying to essentially save you from, right? Save you from feeling. But actually feeling that and actually taking the time to recognize it, that's what's going to stop you from binging. That's what's going to be able to allow you to stop the cycle long term, is actually learning how to sit with your negative emotions and actually address them internally. And then, obviously, the third thing, the most important thing, is not giving up. It's not going to be perfect. It's actually going to be far from perfect. But if you give up, you completely deprive yourself of the opportunity to ever get to a better place. So even though it's difficult, even though every single time you relapse, you're going to feel like a failure, that's literally what happened to me. I just felt like such a failure every time. What's going to actually make you a failure is if you completely give up on yourself and you decide that you're not worth the effort to try again, right? Because every single person, no matter how deep you are into your binge eating cycle, like you are worth the work of trying to get to a better place. You are worth the work of no longer being stuck in a cycle of binge eating. And it's hard to see that when you're in it, but take it from somebody who has overcome that cycle of binge eating and is no longer stuck in it, and who felt like every single time I failed, it's like, am I even worth it? You are. Like, as somebody who's now on the other side of it, all the times of relapsing, of all the times of feeling like I failed, like, it is so worth it. Every single time I failed and got back up, it was worth it. Never once have I, looking back, never once have I thought, wow, I should have just given up. Honestly, that one time I should have just given up. No, because I know that I'm worth that work. Who I am now, the life I have now, was worth all of that. And you are too. You are too. Even if you completely hate your life right now, you are worth putting in the work for the life that you want. And that's really just it. Like, you have to believe that you're worth it enough to try again, even when you fail, even when you feel like you failed so badly there's no coming back from it. You have to just have faith that you and the version of yourself that you want to be, the life that you want to have, the person who doesn't binge, the person who lives a healthy life, the person who socializes and, feels fulfilled with themselves and the life that they've built, you have to believe that that version of you is worth it. Or else you'll never become that version of yourself. You'll never get out of the cycle of binge eating. So, as somebody who has literally been in the depths of depression, been in the depths of binge eating, I gained 70 pounds in a year from it. I gained 70 pounds in a year from it and then didn't lose that weight until years later. Like, coming from somebody who was at that lowest of the low point and who is now on the other side of that, like, you are worth it, even if you feel like you're too far gone. Like, you are not too far gone. Nobody's too far gone. It doesn't matter where you're starting at. Like, wherever you're starting at, however much work is between you now and the version of you in the future that you want to be, no matter how much work that is, you're worth it in the end. And you owe it to yourself to try.